Hey there, welcome to the What Could Go Right podcast. My name is Eric Orton, and on this podcast, Emily and I talk about personal growth, family connection, and raising adult kids. Today, we are delighted to introduce you to our dear friends, Dan and Natalie Reeves. They are currently traveling Europe with their 5 kids and have been doing that for several months. We first met Dan and Natalie at a retreat here in Utah, and it's been a delight to see where their lives have gone since then. And in this conversation, they share with us some of the mindset shifts and some of the couples collaboration that they've done that have made this trip possible for them and their family. As we get going with this podcast and as we do some of these interviews, I want to thank you for your patience. We are still figuring out how to do some of the technology as we interview people while we're traveling and while they are traveling. So thanks for listening despite some of the imperfections. And now sit back and enjoy this conversation with the amazing Dan and Natalie Reeves. First of all, tell us where you are right this moment and then catch us up on the past few months of what you and your family have been up to.
Well, Eric and Emily, thanks for having us on. Good to see you guys. So I'm Dan.
I'm Natalie.
We embarked on this adventure thanks to you, right? We were sitting with you about a year and a half ago dreaming about travel, and I think at the time our dream was to go on an RV trip. But here we are in Lake Como, Italy. And kind of the background on that is I had a bit of a break in work, and we thought, well, let's just take some time and travel. So we thought about doing the RV thing, but then we thought, hey, let's just do Europe. So we toured the southeast of the U.S. for about a month or so, Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas. And then we took a ship, transatlantic cruise out of Miami to Barcelona, and we have been probably in a dozen countries so far. We've traveled with our 5 children who are fairly young, 12 and under, and we started in Spain, spent a few weeks in Spain, Portugal, southern France, Italy. Then we got a little adventurous and went down through Slovenia, Croatia, Montenegro, Albania, Kosovo, North Macedonia. We got over to my mission where I served in Romania. We spent a little bit of time there, and then headed back here to Italy and spent some time in Florence and Rome, and just took a Greek Isles cruise. And now we're in Lake Como, Italy. So we're just having the time of our life. So
quite the adventure.
Man, that is quite the itinerary.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, that just sounds awesome.
So we have you guys to thank because we've basically lived the same life in the same house for 13 years. We've traveled a lot during those 13 years, but every day was pretty much the same, And when we went to your weekend retreat, that was kind of a turning point for us because we really hadn't taken time to sit down and evaluate, okay, if we were to live big and live our dreams, what would we do? And you guys helped us to see, anything's possible. Just plan it and see how it comes to pass. And it's interesting that in it was pretty much less than a year from the time we went to your retreat, the wheels started turning and things started to fall into place that allowed us to take this epic trip.
Yeah.
So
yeah, thanks a lot.
that is really kind of you to say. So thank you.
Yeah, that's incredible. Because I remember you coming out of that, Natalie, and saying what I learned is that my life is pretty good, and I'm basically living my dream right now. And then next thing you hear is they're going off on living in an RV for a month, and now they're heading to Europe. And so there were some more conversations that obviously happened over time.
I'm definitely the.
Well, hey, so
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm definitely the dreamer between the two of us. And I think for that weekend, I had to come to this place of if I never have these big dreams, I'm content with all the dreams I'm living right now. And he came to a place where he's like, hey, this is possible. So it was kind of coming to a middle ground for us.
Yeah.
We met each other in the middle that weekend.
Yeah.
Wow, amazing.
What a cool convergence of how would you say it? Just sort of, I don't know. That seems to be like the yin and yang of marriage, where I think we tend to marry people that complement us, and yet in so many ways are opposite. At least I don't know, Emily. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but anyway, I just think that in so many ways we're different, but we bring out the best in each other, and sometimes we push each other's buttons. But that's really cool to hear that you guys have gone from, you kind of come from opposite places to meet in the middle and doing something that it seems like both of you guys are having a good time. Is that safe to say?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Trip of a lifetime, in so many ways. Not just things we're seeing, but coming together as a family.
And
as
it's
a
still
couple.
not done.
It's phenomenal. Yeah, we didn't know how long we'd be here, but the way we're figuring things out, we're about halfway there. We'll be coming back likely this fall.
We'd love to hang out with you guys when you get back.
Absolutely. Let's go sailing.
Deal. Okay, so a question I have for you guys is, I know that speaking of sailing, when we went to go live on a boat with our kids, it ended up having some impacts on us as individuals, as Eric and Emily, us as a couple, and then as a family. And I'm curious, halfway through your trip, what have been some of the, and this is probably like 6 questions stacked into one, so feel free to unpack this any way you want, but I'm just curious, what have been some of the challenges and the benefits to each of you in that, like you, your marriage, and your kids? And like I said, you can each tackle that, and you can start with yourselves as individuals or a family, wherever you want to go, but I just kind of like love to delve into that area a little bit.
So for me, Dan describes my parenting as the opposite of free-range parenting. Yesterday he said, free-range parenting doesn't suit you. I want order and consistency and things to flow, and that's what I've been able to kind of create in my home. And so then having this like kind of upheaval of all the systems I've had in place for a long time has kind of rocked me in my sense of needing some semblance of order. But that has been definitely a challenge, my personal challenge. What would you say your challenge has been?
I'd say being able to enjoy the moment, yet also realize we are tour managers at the same time, right? Planning where we're going to be tomorrow, what the continual planning that we need to do, yet still soaking in the moment. I think we're getting better at that, but it seemed like the first couple of months we were just in constant planning mode because we didn't do a lot of it before. It was kind of a whirlwind getting over here, but
we hadn't booked one night stay. We flew to Florida, and when we landed in Florida, we didn't even know where we were staying. And it happened to be Valentine's Day, so of course everything was booked out or super overpriced. And we ended up in this like hotel, which was like, welcome kids, welcome to our family trip. And we had 6 months worth of stuff crammed into this little hotel room. They were like,
Well, let me explain. Part of the madness was we ended up selling our house before leaving the States, and so we were in this whirlwind of getting the home ready to sell, selling it, moving out, packing up. We literally were moving our last boxes to the storage unit before we headed to the airport. So we were just a little frenzied for a few months before coming on this, and so but yeah, it's been fantastic. I think the other struggle is, even though I'm in between physical responsibilities at work, and I think for both of us, she runs a couple businesses too, managing work while on the road, but it kind of works out well because most of what we need to do is with people in the States, and that's at night. So we get to enjoy the time with our kids and as a family during the day, and then sometimes we're working past midnight at night, just keeping up on things and making calls, and while the kids are in La La Land sleeping. But we're figuring it out, and it's been so fun. It's been so fun.
Something I'll say for our kids that's been a transition is a few months before this trip, one of our daughters stood up in church and she was sharing everything she was grateful for. And she's like, I'm grateful for our nice cars and our big house. And Deanna and I kind of looked at each other like, oh no, like, did we create this? And so we've both been feeling this need to expose our kids to a simpler life that they haven't known, because they've only lived in one house in the same neighborhood and pretty much have had a pretty blessed life. And we both are like, this is not reality for a lot of people, and they need to be exposed to this. And so in the process of all of this, our kids have had to give up their pets, their rooms, their toys, their friends, and it's a sacrifice that has been asked of them. And basically we're like, trust us, this is going to be an amazing experience. And so it's been really neat to see them surrender and be a bit submissive at the same time of having so many unknowns. But last night our older girls came to us and they said, they came to me and they said, Mom, we have to apologize. And I said, why? And they said, before this trip, we had our own bedrooms, we had hoverboards, I had a crash pillow. One of my daughters said, I had a crash pillow. And we would actually complain. We would be bored. Why were we ever bored? Why did we ever complain? And they said, we're so sorry we were spoiled. And then after that, they said, when we go back, all we need is a bed and 7 outfits and a shelf above our bed, and we'll line up our 7 outfits above on the shelf. Anyway, so for me, I was like, okay, mission accomplished. Like, they've gone from one lifestyle to living in 2-bedroom townhomes. And it's been really healthy and actually a great learning experience for them. So homeschool and all my order kind of dissipated, but life lessons have happened.
I love that. There's a book called The Comfort Crisis, and it's just talking about how sometimes we can get too comfortable, right? And when we were talking to some moms about the kind of what we offer as we do, coaching and things like that, there's like we don't need more connection with our kids in the sense of like being together, because what we're trying to do is get our kids to go outside or go somewhere else or go like do some things. And I think that you're finding as you get out together, you're having these opportunities to connect in a new way, and especially that it sounds like your kids are connecting with the world and themselves in a new way, and kind of recalibrating their view of what's necessary. And it sounds like as they're doing that, their gratitude is increasing. That's awesome.
That's some powerful stuff you guys have shared there about, first of all, what you said, Dan and Natalie, about just sort of like the upheaval and the logistics of moving around. As a family who has done some similar things, we know that that can become a part-time job, and that it's not always as
it sounds so like glamorous when someone else hears about it, but when you're actually doing it, you're like, it is awesome. I always said, people would ask us, how was your experience? And I would say it was intense in all the ways. Like, intensely challenging, intensely beautiful. Everything about it was intense.
and yet, you've got this experience that you're sharing with your daughters, where they're coming to see their lives in a new way. And just as Emily, you said, those are really powerful takeaways, and these are things that they'll never forget. And one of the things that we would say to each other, we have said along the way in our lives, is this can never be undone. This trip that you're taking now, no matter what happens in your future, financially or health-wise, or career or education, this can never be undone. It's already happened. It's in the books. It's locked in. And what a beautiful, powerful thing. Um, I'm just curious, for you as a mom and a dad, what have been, you shared some challenges, which I appreciate. What would you say are some benefits that have come to each of you individually and then as a couple? And I realize you're only partway through the trip, so there's still a lot to unfold. But if you were to say, up to this point, if there have been, and I hope that there have, what have been some of those benefits for you guys?
It's interesting. We were just talking 2 weeks ago, I want to say, how I think for some, this isn't to say anything about anybody else, but for some people, spending 6 weeks together 24/7 as a couple could end in divorce. For us, it's been the complete opposite. We are so in sync because we're working together, having fun together, that even when we were apart for 3 days, for our son's birthday, I took him. I'm a huge Formula One fan. We were 6 hours from Monaco, and the Monaco Grand Prix just happened to be going. So I took Bennett to the Monaco Grand Prix, and we were gone for a few days. Just those few days apart, I came back, and it brought back memories of work travel, or even just going to work every day and then coming back in sync together at the end of the day. So for me, it's been a lesson in, I love this woman so much, and we are so much more in sync the more time we spend together. I don't know if that's much different for other couples, but we've just found that about each other, and I've found that about me, that I love being with her. I love being with the kids. I love this lost time that I'm getting to make up, being together with them. Our poor son and 4 daughters, he's kind of alone in the world sometimes with, we joke, 5 mothers. And so just being able to be his buddy and be just great friends with him, I think has been a definite mission accomplished in this trip. So I think just time together with this sweet woman and with our kids has been the thing that I've learned the most, just how much I love it. So
I know. Sweet. Thank you. Okay, so I would say simplicity. The simplicity of being together. There is nothing else really that's that important. Take away, one of the things that happened is we had all our luggage packed in our van, or most of our luggage. Luckily, we had 2 nights worth of belongings in our Airbnb, but the rest of our luggage was packed in our van, and our van got robbed and they took everything. And so we had 2 nights worth of clothes. Everything else has been taken. And
learning books, everything.
All of our homeschool supplies, toiletries. So anyways, and
things got simple really fast.
Yeah, that really was like, okay, it's gone, but we have each other. Yeah. And the simplicity of recognizing, like, though there can be turmoil, but the unity amongst us is really what matters, and everything else is just details. It's just logistics and details, and that can be worked out. And I think I'm not necessarily a minimal person, but the lesson in all of our belongings being taken away, which I probably wouldn't have only packed 2 nights worth of stuff, but feeling the relief of not needing 2 hours to pack up to go to the next destination, or not having to keep everything organized because we have a lot of belongings. So in a way, I have those robbers to thank. But for as far as
except they stole your life journal and my mission journals and irreplaceable stuff. Other than that, it's just stuff. And it was a good lesson for the kids.
Some important things were also taken.
Yeah.
But I think the lesson of experiencing highs and lows complete highs and complete lows all in one day, almost every day of this trip, and being able to navigate those highs and lows in a steady mentality and not be rocked by them. Like we'll drive 11 hours with the noise of the kids, and like our endurance is amazing with these kids now. But yeah, so it's quite a few lessons as parents here.
Yeah.
Simplicity and riding the highs and lows with a steady mindset has been a blessing.
Well, that's awesome. And it sounds like the kids are becoming more grateful. Do they have any other takeaways or benefits they're getting or things they're enjoying about the travel together or just the time together?
The first cathedral we went to was, remind me.
In Barcelona, Sagrada Familia.
Yeah, Sagrada Familia. And when our kids walked in there, it was like they were struck by lightning. It was like they were just awestruck. They couldn't believe it, what they were seeing. And one of my daughters said she was in tears, and she's like, they did all of this for Jesus. And in those types of moments where they see the larger world around them, that there's a long history in each of these places, and it just broadens their perspective, the perspective that they've gained of the beginning of Christ's church has been really neat to watch them understand and comprehend the apostles, and to see the statues of the apostles, and then to understand, the Reformation and all those aspects of history has been a great experience for them. I think enjoying nature, we spend a lot of time in nature and just soaking it on a level where, we don't have to make it to soccer practice. We don't need to go home and practice piano. There isn't those pressures, so you're able to soak in your time in nature more. Has been awesome for our kids. We just got back from the lake, and just the lake was so still. There's mountains all around the lake and nobody around. And you just, to just bathe in nature like that is such a rare opportunity. What are some of your thoughts?
Speaking of enjoying nature, it reminds me of your experience in the Caribbean. How you talked about your kids couldn't wait to don their masks and snorkels and jump in and check out the sea life. Our kids have adopted the same love when we were down in the Mediterranean, but mostly in the Greek Isles. They got to experience that, the sea life, and so they're always just jumping in the water, just like the Orton kids with their masks and snorkeling around and
sunburned.
Yeah, right.
Sunburns upon sunburns.
Yeah.
There is that, right?
It's a great way to live.
Yeah. That's so awesome. I'm so happy for all of you. Everyone's the cool thing that we out from that trip, in the way that we think, in the way that we handle frustration that arises. And I know it can feel kind of weird that in our case we say, well, we want to disrupt our discovered is that even after we got home, even years after, that there kept being benefits that were with ourselves, and create an environment for growth and connection. And then when it happens, as it will in life, right, that disruption comes, it was like we were better prepared for it. And that's been the same for the kids, and sounds like you guys are enjoying some of those benefits already.
No, that's good. So it gave them the trials that you guys went together.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
And just gave them a broader perspective when they were back, that otherwise big problems just seem small. Is that kind of how it goes?
And just not getting, like you said, Natalie, like going through the highs and lows with that steadiness. So like, oh, I didn't get into the college program of my choice 3 times. Well, now what am I going to do? Like just having the resilience to keep coming back when things don't go the way you expect.
And flexibility. One of the things we've talked about a lot is like, this didn't go our way. Oh well, let's move on. This didn't go our way. Oh well, let's move on. And a lot of times we're having a hard time with our youngest, teaching her that. But our kids, having given up so much already, and then it's almost like, okay, like, it's that resilience. It's practice and resilience, like constant practice.
We lost connection with them at this point. Like I said, we're still figuring out how to do these international interviews while on the go across so many time zones. But suffice it to say that it was a delight to speak with Dan and Natalie, and we do hope to go sailing with them someday. In the meantime, I was honored by what they said at the beginning about how their time with us had an impact on how their travels came to be. Honestly, what Natalie described about living big and picking that thing and then watching it come into being, that is what we want for you. So here's my plug about why I'd love to jump on a discovery call with you. Have you ever asked the question, what if, or wouldn't it be cool if? If you're like me and a lot of people, you answer that question, but kind of in a limited way. You don't really let yourself go there. And so what I'd love to do is get on a call with you and help you get past some of your limiting thoughts, limiting beliefs, and answer that question as boldly and beautifully as your imagination will allow. They're fun, they're free, they're painless. All you got to do is go to theawesomefactory.nyc/discovery, pick a time slot that works with you, and we'll spend a few minutes and help you go to an amazing place and help you discover what's possible in your life.